all of which is very nice. The ride for highway use, very comfortable, very quiet in here, very spacious, very roomy, very demure, very, all the things that you would expect from a luxury vehicle we get here on, as this one is tested, a $50,000 Chevrolet. Hey gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk. I'm Corey, and this is a 2025 Chevrolet Equinox EV. And after living with this one for nearly 1,000 miles across Texas and back, I can honestly say that this is the best EV to wear the bow tie. In this video, I will take you on a complete tour of it and a short drive and explain my reasonings. Okay, gearheads, before we get too far into this, I do want to say a huge thank you to Chevrolet for providing this one to us for our annual summer road trip. This time it had us going into the heart of Texas, into Fredericksburg, and well, I kind of figured that might be a problem with an EV with an estimated range of 319 miles from the EPA. We've never really seen, but we will get into all that. But yes, huge thanks to Chevrolet for bringing this one to us. But as we are up front, I'm going to pull the double latched hood and talk about what motivates this one. While most EVs do have some sort of front trunk storage, the short overhang and overall design of the Equinox EV means, well, there really isn't much space for anything other than the electrical components and such crammed under the hood here. There's still an electric motor and a lot of stuff that needs to go somewhere in the vehicle, and well, that just negates any front trunk storage here in this one. But what we do get on our front wheel drive model is a 220 horsepower, 243 pound-foot of torque, single electric motor, as I said, front wheel drive. The all-wheel drive model does obviously employ dual electric motors with a little bit more power, though not a lot. We'll show you exactly what that power is like by 0 to 60 testing this one here in just a little bit. But suffice it to say, for normal commuting duty and for our road trip, this was plenty powerful enough. Closing the hood, we can talk about the style. This is not the first time I have sampled an Equinox EV here on the channel. I've taken multiple tours of them at auto shows, and I've even driven an RS ever so briefly from my friends here at Pelche Chevrolet in Tyler, Texas. But living with this one, especially in this Riptide Blue with the white roof that they've been showing off since they introduced this to the world, I really like the style of it. First, you got this LED light bar that goes across the front. You can see we have our turn signals hidden up here, but very interestingly, very small headlight housings. This is the entire headlight right here, and it really just gives this a very futuristic look. Now, this being an LT, we get the body colored faux grille, but if we had gotten an RS, this part would be black, giving it a little more sinister, edgy look. Of course, the last RS I sampled on the channel was black, so you couldn't really tell all that much. But I really do like the cohesive design on this one. And as I pull you in closer, I will show you the textured material here on this black plastic across the front. Now, I did intentionally leave this one dirty to show you exactly what 1,000 miles or just under that does to this Riptide Blue metallic, but don't worry, I do have some B-roll of when it was pristine and clean. Yes, as we pull in closer, you can see that it is not just a black front surround around this front grille. We actually do get some texture, some faux carbon fiber look that does just add to the overall appeal of this Equinox EV. I will say, for the duration that we've had this, that I've been telling people is the most un-Chevrolet styled Chevrolet on the road today. It doesn't have too much in common with the rest of the brand, and I think that is a compliment in that this really is just a futuristic looking design. If you'd cover up the bow ties, I don't think anybody would know exactly what this is. It's not saying anything bad about the rest of the brand. I'm just saying how future forward the design is here on this Equinox EV. We've gotten a lot of compliments on this one. I don't know if it's the blue and white two-tone paint, or just the overall futuristic design, but people seem to really love this no matter where we go. We will go ahead and pull in close here and take a look at the wheels. We do have the optional 21-inch wheels, and I'm very interested in them because typically on EVs, you get a very aerodynamic wheel with not a lot of air showing through them. Take a look at the 22-inch wheels on the Silverado EV we tested last week. But here, these look more like they would fit on a sports car than on an EV crossover. They are 6 lugs, so that does speak to the weight of this vehicle, and they are wrapped in 275/40 R21-inch Continental CrossContact tires that on our journey were mostly quiet, but we'll talk about that momentarily. As we pull around to the side of the Equinox EV, you can see it has a very handsome look, but does not really share anything in common in the front, in the side, in the rear with the Equinox. In fact, this is a totally different vehicle. It doesn't even share the same dash or screen layout. It really is just small parts sharing here and there across the lineup. Not quite sure why Chevrolet is so determined to release EVs with similar names as their gas-powered vehicles, but nothing else really. I mean, this is still, yes, a compact crossover from Chevrolet, so that makes it an Equinox, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been an opportunity for them to name it something a little bit different, but we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit maybe while we're driving. I really do like the white contrasting roof on this with the riptide blue, especially back here on this shark fin section that really accentuates it. We see that on a lot of Chevrolet crossovers here lately. The Traverse, the Equinox, the Trailblazer, we're seeing that a lot. As we pull around to the rear of the vehicle, very interesting taillight design back here. First and foremost, we get this Doppler-like pattern on the LED light bar, goes across the back, but if the lights were off, they would not be red. They are actually a frosted white lens that really just gives us a nice upscale look, especially paired with the blue and white paint. It just kind of all ties it together. I think, again, this is the most un-Chevrolet-like Chevrolet on sale today. So if you don't like the rest of the Chevrolet design language, this one may speak to you because there really is a lot to like on this one. We'll come in close and you can see we do have our backup camera right above the license plate. We also have the electronic release to get into the power operated hatch back here. And when you open it up, there really isn't that much less room back here behind the second row of seats than in the bigger Blazer EV we have already tested here on the channel. So if you did watch my Blazer EV SS video at all, or the comparison to the Hyundai Ioniq that we were testing simultaneously with it, you will know that I lamented a lot about the weight and how that translated into the driving character of the Blazer EV. A lot of that is due to its size. It is a bigger vehicle than this. Chevy did really good on the interior packaging of the Equinox to keep it very much in line with that Blazer. So you really aren't sacrificing much by going with the smaller electric crossover from Chevrolet. In addition to the space you see here, you can fold the 60/40 split seats down, but you are gonna have to reach in and do that from those handles right there. We do get a little extra storage. No, I'm not just talking about this little pocket here on the side, but I am talking about actually underneath the floor here because you get this deep well where I guess a muffler would be if this were a gas car. You also get a little bit of storage up under the front portion right there. You can pull this forward and drop it down if you would like, which gives you just a little bit more space. But we get that ramp up there to the back of the seat back, where if this were folded down, well, Tucker's child seat is in the way, but you can see it'll still give you a nice transition from the seat back to the cargo section back here. That is very much something that we see in Hyundais, that little bend right there just to give you a nice smooth transition. So it is very nice to see that translate here in this Equinox. Chevrolet is really learning a lot from Hyundai and what they are doing in EVs, and I'm absolutely here for it. As we look up, we do have a single power button to close the power hatch. It starts moving almost before it gives you the beeps and warnings to get out of the way. Before we climb in this one, I do want to show you the key. Typical Chevy proximity key. Nothing too special here. On the backside, you do get lock, unlock, your remote start, your remote hatch release, and a panic button. You can also deploy a physical key from it if you need to, but no need to really keep it out of your pocket or your purse because, as I mentioned, it is a proximity key. Now, Chevy has done a few interesting firsts for their lineup here on this one. The first and most obvious is the disappearing door handles. They actually retract into the body side and present themselves as you walk closer with that proximity key on your person. But it does not mean the vehicle is unlocked. It simply means the door handles present themselves to you. Another first for them is a passive entry. So the vehicle is locked right now, but if I grab the door handle, you hear it unlock, and now I can get into the vehicle. Most Chevrolet, most General Motors products with proximity keys have a non-passive entry system that requires you pushing a little silver button to lock and unlock the vehicle. Here it is completely passive. If you close the door, you can push that spot on the door handle, that locks it and disappears the door handles. If you want that back, you can just press right there again. That did unlock it, but to present the door handles, you just push out on that portion right there and you can get in. When you open the doors, just like the outside, the interior is very much unlike many other Chevrolets on the market. First, we'll start over here. On the door, we do have the Sky Cool Gray Evotex interior, which really does mostly look white, but it does have a nice texture to it. And you can see, yes, ours is getting a little bit dirty, but for the most part, it looks very nice. And then we get this fade from baby blue to gray here. There is actually some interior ambient lighting behind this portion here. You can't really see in the daylight right now, but it is a cool effect at night. It's better interior ambient lighting than what we got in the Blazer EV. You can see our model does have 2-person memory seats. We do have all of our power window controls here, but only driver express up and down. We do get hard GM plastics everywhere below this line right here, but I mean, it seems to work well, and we don't have any really hard seams or creases where the molds were taken apart. It has been a long-standing joke in the automotive community that General Motors interiors are trying to cut you. I'm not seeing that in this one, and I will show you more evidence of the upscaledness of this interior as we go throughout. Go ahead and open the door a little bit more. Take a look at the multi-way positional seat here with 2-way lumbar. That is very nice. We'll pull out, take a look at the multi-textured and multi-colored seat here in the Equinox EV. So it is the Evotex. We get the black or dark gray, the sky cool gray here, but this denim-like material, we saw that in the Blazer EV as well. That one was orange, but here we get that sky cool gray. We get some contrasting piping to the dark gray around here. We get some contrasting stitching, so some blue stitching, some light gray stitching. We'll go ahead now and slide in to the vehicle and take a look around right now. You may have noticed that the car turned itself on. That is because I have the key in my pocket and I sat down in the driver's seat and closed the door. Another way I could do that is being in here with the key and putting my foot on the brake, all of which turns the vehicle on. I can turn it off manually by pressing that button on the screen right there. And if I were to get out of the vehicle right now, it would actually turn off, but I can override that by pressing that button right there. But I do want to give a quick demonstration of getting out and it turning off. Of course, yes, now it's not going to do it for me because I am filming, but suffice it to say, on our trip, that is how you turn it off. But in the event that doesn't work, you can simply turn it off that way, and now the vehicle is off. Again, press the brake and that turns it back on. Now, I did say the screen situation notwithstanding, this was a very unique interior. This is the same 11-inch and 17.7-inch freeform display that we see on Silverado EV, Blazer EV, Tahoe, Suburban, practically any new Chevrolet. This is the same screen layout. Interestingly, though, the Equinox, the gas-powered Equinox, gets a smaller screen over here without the digital knob effect over here. So you get a better screen layout, but there are a few things missing. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. We do also have a head-up display on our particular tester on this sort of UFO-like setup on the dash. So very easy to tell if you've got a head-up display in your Equinox EV. Does a good job of giving you all the pertinent information, but this screen is very easy to read as well. You can also page through different layouts of that screen here in front of us by pressing this button on the steering wheel. There's your simplistic view. But I really have enjoyed this view because it's the only one that I can really quickly glance, see my battery percentage. You can see we're at 99%. Still the EPA rated 319 miles on this one. But if you do the math right here, this has an 85 kilowatt hour battery times 3 miles per kilowatt hour. That does not give you the 319 miles of range. So this one does again fall a little bit short of EPA estimates. You would have to get somewhere around 3.75 miles per kilowatt, so 3.75 miles per kilowatt. We haven't seen that throughout our time of testing. We're getting a fairly consistent 3, which is a good return. This is a surprisingly efficient vehicle, especially knowing Chevy EVs sort of have a weight problem. I mentioned the 6-lug wheels on this one. The Blazer EV, the weight was a constant issue when driving. We'll talk a little bit more about the weight of this one while we're driving. As we move over here, much like every other Chevrolet EV, no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. That is because Chevrolet desperately wants you to use the built-in Google Maps on this one. When you use the built-in Google Maps on this one, you can see it gives you an estimated charge percentage when you arrive. That is actually where we ate lunch yesterday. And you can see if I drove there right now, at 99%, I would be at 48% when I got there. This address, I can't remember exactly where that is, but that would put me at -17, so it would suggest charging routes along the way. But you may have noticed my shortcut bar up here includes Waze. This does have Waze built into it. Still does not make up for the fact that I miss Apple CarPlay. No Apple CarPlay in this really is a deal breaker for me. It's just slow, it's laggy, I can't easily transfer stuff from my phone to the vehicle. I much prefer Waze over the Google Maps. I kind of really prefer Apple Maps over Google Maps for a lot of situations. I'm very heavy into the Apple ecosystem. It's just a big no-no for me. The biggest competitor to this vehicle is the Hyundai Ioniq 5. They just introduced a wireless version of CarPlay in theirs. It really is the gold standard in this size class. But if Apple CarPlay doesn't matter too much to you, this really is a good screen, nice big layout, responsive and all. You can do a lot of stuff through it. I don't like how this split view here only allows you to put Google Maps here. Again, we use Waze a lot. Then we've got our different drive modes here. You can see normal, sport, snow and ice. And my mode is, again, because we are in a front wheel drive model. Our music interface, again, no Apple Music app built into this. So I had to do Bluetooth streaming just to get our Apple Music. Again, being heavily ingrained in the Apple ecosystem, this isn't great. It is a Google designed unit. It's just not great. You can see we have different phone pairings. We have our electric charging menu where we can find local charging stations. We can save favorite charging stations, different routes. We can precondition the battery so that it is good and warm by the time we get to our location. So yeah, preconditioning temperature, you can set all that all right in here in the screen. And then we do have good 360 cameras in this. I really do like Chevy's cameras, though I feel like they could give us a little more screen real estate dedicated to the camera here. We've got this screen that starts over here and goes all the way over here. Very interesting that they kind of limit your space there. You can drag whatever you want up here. So if I wanted my quick access to controls, I can drag that up there. But I do get a shortcut for that over here. I do like how Chevy gives you several shortcuts here that are contextual based on what you're doing. So if I put this in drive, you can see my menu options change a little bit. This is my one pedal drive. You can see we have different levels here. Again, Hyundai does it a little bit better. We have off, normal, and high. I feel like normal and high are just a little too aggressive. I'll show you that later while we're driving. Dual zone HVAC controls, which are very nice. We'll go ahead and sync that up. Heated and ventilated seats, which I really like. I also like how it doesn't open a separate menu like on some GMCs we've driven lately. You just push that button a few times and change the adjustment. It does automatically come on or off based on your temperature here and the ambient temperature outside. So you can see it's quite warm this morning already. Air vents work really good. You can see we have these turbine style vents over here. This vehicle gets really cold when you let it, and I absolutely love that. Over my left knee here, you can see we have our lane keep, our auto hold if we want to take our foot off when we come to a complete stop in traffic, our hatch release button right here, our brightness control for our screen, and our electronic parking brake controls. Over here, we do get some redundant physical controls for the HVAC, including auto fan speed, but I can control that here. And then our dual zone temperature knobs, but I can also control that on the screen. Moving down further, we get a rubberized storage mat right here with a Qi wireless charger that Chevy puts in the center for some reason, completely negating this downward sloping area for anything other than your phone. And in my use of this vehicle, only about 5% of the time has that charger actually charged my phone. It's not great. I wish they would have just gotten rid of it. Chevy wireless chargers have been really good for us. This one is not. I wish they had given us like a slot here like we see in the Cadillac Escalade. Moving further back, we get more of that blue material. We get blue material up here. This is ambient backlit. More sky cool gray up here, which you can't really tell how I'm sitting right now. Maybe you can a little bit right there. It does reflect on the windshield a little bit, and it's practically bright white. So yes, under direct sunlight, it can be a little bit bright, but it does kind of break up some of the design in here. It's not all dark gray. It's not all blue. I like it a lot. It's very un-Chevrolet-like. You can see they hide all the molding, dividing lines very well in this. There's no real example of this Chevrolet interior trying to cut you. I will note we have a little storage here that works well for non-max sized iPhones, though my 16 Pro Max does fit in here. It doesn't fit perfectly. Get this removable rubber tray so we can remove crumbs. We get 2 USB-C ports right here. But speaking of crumbs, something that Holly noticed is this little ledge right here is prone to catching crumbs, which we can see right here. These are not ours. It's whoever had the vehicle before us. Little cleanliness issue there, but it's just some of the design choices. You can see we get more of that Evotex here, more Evotex here. It's all that textured stuff. It is really nice and upscale, really lending to the premium feeling in this Equinox EV. You can see as we move down further, we have a pass-through of storage, which I guess is a good time to talk about charging. Chevrolet did provide us with this NACS to CCS adapter here that allowed us to charge on the Tesla Supercharger network, which really was a game changer. So even though we aren't seeing the EPA estimated 319 miles of range in our time with this, we were able to road trip across Texas just fine, charging at Tesla stations and some CCS native charging stations as well. But huge thanks to Chevrolet for providing that to us. If you don't have one for your EV and want to expand, we do have our partners Lectron with their Vortex adapter. We will put a link down in the video description for you to get one from them. We will go ahead now and pop out and show you another lament I had of the Blazer EV was the power charge door that was so slow. We get a manual charge door here. While it is rather large, it is manually operated and does allow you to get in and out of it very quickly. So I much prefer this charge door to what we saw in the Blazer EV. As we move back inside, one last thing I want to talk about is the center console. It is a side hinge lid, so if you're sitting over here, you're going to be looking over the lid to get into this very narrow center console with this removable center section. All the materials are nice. This is a rubberized plastic here, though this is a harder plastic down here, so you will get a little bit of rattle if you put anything in this lower section, but not in this rubberized section right here. We do also have a damped but not felt lined glove box right here that is plenty roomy as well. And we already talked about the storage space over there. No sunglasses holder up here, no sunroof in our particular model, which means me at 5'10", I've got plenty of headroom. But now let's take a look at that back seat, see what the space is like behind myself here in my driving position at 5'10". As we approach the vehicle, the door handles are already out, the vehicle is already unlocked. If the vehicle was not unlocked, I would either need to open a front door and press the unlock button, or grab the front passenger door handle to passively unlock all the doors. That is just a safety feature Chevrolet has built in here. As we look at the back door panels, you can see we get all the same materials we do up front. The Evotex Sky Cool Gray armrest here that is padded and textured, and we get that blue to gray fade here on this panel, so that is very nice. Go ahead and zoom out a little bit. The back seats, again, Sky Cool Gray, we get that denim-like material, the dark gray, the contrasting stitching, we get some blue here around the headrest, all of which is very nice. We even get hard plastic covers here over the lower latch points, more of that denim-like material down here. Again, a very premium feeling interior all the way around. We'll go ahead, slide in behind myself at 5'10", and one of the great things about an EV first architecture is the amount of space allotted to the passenger compartment. The wheels are really pushed out to the corners, which really gives the interior a lot of space for people. You can see I've got tons of legroom here. Again, not that much less than a Blazer EV. Now, one thing where the Blazer EV has up over this Equinox EV is its width. It very much is a truck-like width inside the Blazer EV, but you can see this is more compact crossover in the Equinox. So not quite as much width here. I could sit very easily in the middle of the Blazer EV. This one is a little more narrow. I would say this is more geared towards children than anything. I do like how we get air vents on the back of the center console, though for a rear-facing car seat, that is not ideal. If you want to see us put in this child safety seat, be sure and hit subscribe and watch our family review. So we move down further, we do get luxuries like heated outboard rear seats, which is nice, and two additional USB-C charge ports. Here, we get a little storage and map pockets on the backs of both front seats. We get a little bit of storage there in the door, and we get a little bit of storage in the form of cup holders here in the center console. And I'm very glad to report they do have rubber grippers. They are deep enough to hold most American drinks, so I like that a lot. And then a lot of you have been complaining that Chevy doesn't put a headrest in the center seat of their back seats. Well, that is not the case here in the Equinox EV. Coming to me, headroom is still relatively good. I've got a couple inches above my head here, so very comfortable back here. And we'll go ahead and see, do these seats recline? No, they don't. The Blazer EVs did have a slight recline to them that you could add by pulling the handle there, but I'd say the overall seating position, it's upright, but not like upright. It's comfortable enough, and I've got plenty of leg room. I can slouch a little if that is how I want to ride back here. That is enough of a tour of this one. Let's hop behind the wheel and see how this one drives. Now that we are parked and I can put all my cameras up and talk a little bit more about the interior, I really do like this interior. I just wish we had Apple CarPlay. I will lament that a lot. It does require that you maintain your OnStar subscription to use all the features like the Google Maps and everything like that. If this did have Apple CarPlay, I could let my subscription expire and I could like plug in my phone and have everything I need there. But this, with its Google built in, allows me to say things like, hey Google, what's 85 times 3?
85 times 3 is 255.
Which is the estimated miles that you could travel at 3 miles per kilowatt with the 85 kilowatt hour battery. But yeah, it allows me to do stuff like that, but it is all subscription based, as is the Super Cruise that I'm sure we will talk about in a little bit. But that's my lamenting there. I do want to thank RaceBox, our official 0 to 60 partners on this video. They supplied us with this GPS race timer that allows us to test and see just how quick each of our vehicles are 0 to 60. You can get one for yourself, save 15% thanks to our partnership, and help our channel out in the process with the link down in the video description below. But as I normally do, we will pull out on the road here and do a quick 0 to 60 run, see exactly what this thing is capable of. Now, we do have sport drive mode on this one, but no wide open watts or anything like that. I am gonna brake torque it by standing on the brake with my left foot, stand on the accelerator with my right foot, and just drop the brake. We do take off rather quickly and get going rather fast here in this one, but at just over 200 horsepower with 6 lug wheels indicating a very heavy platform. 7.46 is the best we get, which when you're talking about EV acceleration, you really expect like that blisteringly quick EV acceleration. You don't get that here in the Equinox EV. It really is more of a commuter vehicle, but 7.46 is really good for this class. I am not complaining. Yes, I would love to see a SS version of this platform because I think it is really good, but 7.46 as this one is equipped really is a nice acceleration number. I have enjoyed our time in this commuting around and such, so I've got no real complaints. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in normal because sport mode also amps up the fake noises that are piped in through the non-branded 6-speaker sound system inside here, and normal just kind of keeps it normal in here. It's how we've driven our 869.5 miles so far that we've been testing this one on. It really has been a great vehicle. If you rewind back to our Blazer EV video, you will know I lamented a lot the weight of the Blazer EV. It was very noticeable every time you came to a stop, kind of wiggled back and forth. You can get that same sort of action here in the Equinox EV, but nowhere near as drastic. It has a smaller, lighter battery than the 102 kilowatt hour battery in the Blazer EV SS, and it doesn't have a sport tuned suspension, so they were able to hide the weight of this a little bit better by giving it a little softer suspension for most driving duty, but not so soft and so stiff, I guess. I don't know, they tuned it just right. I feel like the SS-ification of that Blazer just kind of made it worse in stop and go traffic. This in stop and go traffic has been perfect. It has been great. It's been very easy to drive on the highway and in this city alike. Which, let's talk about range a little bit. We talked a little bit when we were taking a tour of the vehicle, but I did mention we have gotten a flat 3 miles per kilowatt hour since we've had this in mixed driving, though in the city we were getting somewhere around 3.2, which is close to what the EPA estimates on the window sticker. They say 31 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, which if you do the math is 3.22, something like that, which is a decent return and something we actually saw in our normal city driving before we headed out on our road trip. To get the 319 miles of estimated range, we'd have to get somewhere around 3.75 miles per kilowatt hour. We never saw that. So do not buy this thinking you will really get the 319 miles of estimated range. You will get much better than the 200 something that Google shared with us earlier when we multiplied 3 times 85. There we got some play in the suspension, but you're not getting 319 in this. Don't fool yourself. You're not getting 319. Just imagine that you've got an 85 kilowatt hour battery. You'll get 3 miles per kilowatt hour in highway driving, even in Texas highway driving. And you'll get about 3.2, 3.25, maybe 3.3 in city driving. Those are the range numbers you need to look at. Multiply those times your 85 kilowatt hour battery size, and that's what you would get. I really feel like we need to get away from this range conversation on window stickers and the MPGE on window stickers. I think those are just red herrings. They are great marketing numbers, but they're just that. They are marketing numbers. If you really want to talk about how far you can expect to go in your EV, you need to know that not so stellar miles per kilowatt hour number. It's really hard when we're used to talking about 30, 40 miles per gallon to talk about 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour being a good number, but that's where I feel we need to start educating the consumers in the miles per kilowatt and the size of the battery, and allow us to do the math. Because even with this trip computer in front of me, the entire trip I was doing the math myself. I knew that 1% of battery was nearly 1 mile of range, and I just did all the math myself and kind of disregarded the trip computer for anything other than my miles per kilowatt hour. All right, that's enough range discussion. How does this drive? You saw it got a little bouncy, floaty over some rough pavement back there. This is not a corner carver per se, but those Continental CrossContact 21-inch tires are doing a fair job here. Though, if we hit a bump in a corner, it does get a little upset. The suspension does get a little upset going around corners. And in our family review, we do take this on the historic brick streets of downtown Tyler, Texas. We did on our road trip take this to Luckenbach, Texas. And if any of you watching this have been to Luckenbach, Texas, you know the pavement going into the parking lot is less than stellar. And that's kind of where you see the heavy weight of this vehicle and the suspension tuning kind of working against each other, because you get a lot of wheel bounce really quickly and you realize just how heavy this vehicle is. It's not great for really rough, torn up pavement. This vehicle really is set for roads, and even though it's an SUV, this is really an on-road vehicle first and foremost, and it's a very comfortable one. Now that we are at the end of the twisty bits here, we're going to do one more acceleration test. From normal mode, I'm going to go from the brake to the accelerator, no brake torquing, so to speak. I'm just going to do a typical acceleration test. So here we go, full stop, and off we go. We are going uphill a little bit. We did get just a little bit of lag before the vehicle figured out, okay, he wants me to go forward quickly. And there we have 8.2 seconds. So yes, that is a little on the slow side, but I have tested gas-powered crossovers with much worse acceleration than this. I would say this is very comparable to your typical crossover in this class. For what you would expect for acceleration. No, it's not EV quick. It doesn't do that EV blistering acceleration, but I don't think, in fact, I feel very strongly that a lot of EVs are too quick for their own good. This is an EV for the masses. I think this will be Chevy's best-selling EV long-term. The affordability factor, this starts just over $30,000, really does play into that conversation. And I don't think we need just a ton of people with blisteringly fast acceleration. I think this is perfectly fine for what it is. It's still instantaneous when the vehicle, again, not in sport mode, realizes, oh, we want to go. It does still allow you to quickly merge into traffic or evade an obstacle, whatever the case may be. I do like that about EVs. I think that this is a really good EV. I like it better than a luxury branded sedan, sports sedan even, that we're testing alongside this. We actually picked this vehicle for our road trip because it was more comfortable and luxurious than a luxury branded sports sedan that we are testing simultaneously. The power delivery is more smooth, which brings me into my age-old conversation about how EVs make great luxury vehicles. I already showed you the space in here. The fact that Chevy really has upped their interior quality in both design, materials, fit and finish. Everything in here is much better than Chevys of old. I know I will get some people in the comments saying, it's a Chevy. Look, I have owned Chevys since, let's see, I bought my first one in 07, and this is head and shoulders above that in interior fit and finish and build quality. I really am impressed. I joked earlier about all GM interiors trying to cut you, having hard plastic edges somewhere. This one doesn't really have this. Yes, we do get hard plastics in different places in this one, but it is not your old school Chevy interior. It really is a nice place to be. I like the mixed use of materials. This Evotex really is a nice leather alternative, all of which is very nice. The ride for highway use, very comfortable, very quiet in here, very spacious, very roomy, very demure, all the things that you would expect from a luxury vehicle we get here on, as this one is tested, a $50,000 Chevrolet. Yes, $50,000 is a little bit pricey for a non-luxury branded vehicle, but I feel like this is nicer than some luxury branded vehicles. Again, our nameless luxury sports sedan notwithstanding, we won't give out any brand names or models in that case. One last thing I want to talk about in this video is Super Cruise. So our road trip was over 800 miles. I would say for a good majority, perhaps 75% of the miles that I drove on that trip, they were all hands-free, which is something that we will smash cut to and show you exactly what hands-free driving is like in this Equinox EV. Okay, let's talk about Super Cruise a little bit. I do believe it is the gold standard for hands-free driving in a vehicle that doesn't wear a Tesla badge. And what I mean by that is it really is as advertised. It is truly hands-free driving on pre-mapped roads. Now, when Super Cruise first came out, it was limited pretty exclusively just to the interstate system, limited access highways and the like. Chevrolet, General Motors has continually added on to that system with over-the-air updates year after year after year. They're adding mile after mile of pre-mapped roads to the system that allow this to work hands-free all across the nation. I have been truly impressed with just how quickly they've been able to add to the roads that Super Cruise is available on, and the amount of roads that you can truly use hands-free lane change. Now, level setting it a little bit, I am on State Highway 110, leaving White House going back into Tyler, Texas. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the Super Cruise button here on the steering wheel. It lights up green. I've got a bunch of cameras looking back at me, making sure I am paying attention to the road situation in front of me. But here we go, hands-free driving on a state highway that is not limited access. Now, this will not do hands-free lane change because there is a paved median in between the two opposing directions of traffic. If we had a divided median, say a grass section in there like Highway 69, north of Tyler going into Lindale, this would actually do a hands-free lane change to get around this Ford Edge in front of me. And how it does that is it's looking all the way around the vehicle. It realizes, hey, I'm not going the speed that the driver has selected for the adaptive cruise control, so we're going to check and make sure the lanes are clear around us. It puts the blinker on, gives me a vibrate in my GM safety seat to let me know, hey, we're going to move over, giving me a chance to disengage a lane change if I did not want it, and then it moves over, gets around the vehicle, and moves back. All of which works very seamlessly and nice. But here in this traffic situation I find myself in, no hands-free lane change, but I can initiate a lane change myself. It'll disengage the lane centering and allow me to change lanes if I wanted to, all of which works great. I absolutely love Super Cruise. GM, you're doing a great job My only lament is, again, you have to have that subscription. You do get 3 years of OnStar when you buy your Chevy Equinox EV, but after that, you're paying monthly or annually to keep all of your interior electronics working as advertised, so that is a slight limitation. Well, that about does it for my time here with the 2025 Equinox EV. Do I like it better than, say, a Hyundai Ioniq 5? It's pretty close. I would say the one pedal braking, the regenerative braking one pedal drive is a little less than great here in the Equinox EV. It's not quite as intuitive as the paddle shifters in the Ioniq 5. And we're missing Apple CarPlay. I know that is a big deal for me. Our family, we're heavily ingrained in the Apple ecosystem, so no CarPlay is a deal breaker. I don't see us buying one of these, but adding Apple CarPlay definitely puts it in a strong consideration for our family. If that isn't an issue for you, if one pedal driving is not a big issue for you, because I just don't feel like it is completely as polished here in the Equinox EV, I'd say this is a strong contender. It drives very well, very comfortable, very quiet, very luxurious on the inside. Overall, I really like this one, and I would say it is Chevy's best EV, hands down. And we've tested both the Blazer and Silverado, so this is a strong consideration. If you want to see more from us, including our family review, hit the subscribe button down below, ring the bell so you are notified when future videos drop. Find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. Everything is at GT Garage Talk, or you can go to gtgaragetalk.com. But as for me, behind the wheel of the 2025 Chevrolet Equinox EV LT front wheel drive, until next time, gearheads, bye.